In this video, we'll be talking about religious intolerance and blasphemy law in Pakistan. 2 days ago, on the 3rd of December, a Sri Lankan national was tortured to death in Sialkot and his body was set on fire after a mob attacked the foreign national over blasphemy allegations. This incident took place on Wazirabad Road, where the workers of private factories killed a Sri Lankan national named Mr. Kumara, who was the operational manager at a factory for the past 7 years. Now, Mr. Kumara allegedly tore off a poster of the TLP Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, in which Quranic verses were inscribed, and threw it in the dustbin, and was later killed by a mob within the factory premises, while the police were informed shortly thereafter. This is one of the thousands of killings in the name of religion committed since the creation of Pakistan, and such acts are the results of decades of blasphemy weaponization by the state for its goals and impunity for anyone using it for theirs. The Pakistan of yesterday and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan's founders envisioned bear little remembrance to Pakistan today. Like Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Pakistan's founder and first president, urged Pakistanis to respect religious pluralism. And despite the bitterness and bloodshed accompanying India's partition and the beginning of the Kashmir conflict, Pakistan's founders always embraced and encouraged religious tolerance, which can be seen from the fact that in 1953, Pakistani public holidays included not only the Christian holidays of Christmas and Easter, but also Diwali, Jain, Holi, and Dussehra. I'm sorry if I pronounced these names wrong, like Dussehra. I don't know how you pronounce that, but yeah. But today, Pakistan is a country in which members of religious minorities regularly face death for often unfounded accusations of blasphemy. Religious intolerance and religious superiority can be seen in society, which lead to nothing but more violence and oppression. Not only Christians, but all minorities, including Shias and Hindus, face discrimination and are targeted with cynical and malicious application of blasphemy allegations. But the ones that suffer the most are the Ahmadis, who the government officials single out for persecution. This past summer, after Islamist Khalid Khan murdered Tahir Ahmad Naseem, a Pakistani American and member of the Ahmadi sect, the teenage gunman posed with arresting officers who appeared supportive of his act. Shahbaz Bhatti, a Christian minister, was killed in an ambush for attempting to reform the blasphemy law. Moreover, the house of Shahbaz Gurmani, a lawyer defending a university lecturer accused of blasphemy, was raided by gunmen on motorcycles, warning him not to withdraw from the case. And do not forget the name of Asia Bibi, a Christian accused of insulting the Prophet during an argument with her Muslim co-workers. She was sentenced to death and spent almost a decade in solitary confinement on death row, and her lawyer, Saiful Muluk, had to flee the country in fear of his life. She was acquitted of all charges by the Supreme Court of Pakistan in 2018, but in the meantime, Pakistan's then-serving governor, Salman Taseer, a known liberal who was campaigning for Bibi and openly criticized the country's blasphemy laws, was shot dead in January 2011 by his own bodyguard, Mumtaz Qadri. Mumtaz Qadri, the bodyguard, shot Salman Taseer 27 times. He was later hanged, but was hailed a hero by extremist religious groups in Pakistan. In May 2021, dozens of villagers attacked Golra police station in Islamabad, looking to lynch a suspect held for further investigation under blasphemy charges. In 2017, angry students lynched to death 23-year-old Mashal Khan, a journalism student at Abdul Wali Khan University in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Khan was accused of writing blasphemous posts on social media. It was later found that allegations against him were unfounded, and he was but one statistic on a long list. Human Rights Without Frontiers reports at least 128 people have been killed by mobs after they were accused of committing blasphemy. And the report released on 9 September 2021 says that between 1987 and 2021, 1865 people in Pakistan had been charged under blasphemy laws. There was a significant spike in 2020 when 200 cases were registered under the controversial law. Talking of the blasphemy law, the Pakistan Penal Code defines various categories of blasphemy offences. They range from defilement of places of worship to insulting the Prophet Muhammad by written or spoken word or by visible representation. Although the death penalty for blasphemy has never been enforced in Pakistan despite existence in statute, dozens of people accused of blasphemy have been murdered by vigilantes before their trials. There is no penalty for making a false allegation of blasphemy. I repeat, there is no penalty for making a false allegation of blasphemy, which further solidifies the narrative that personal interests and enmities can be the cause for another innocent man's assassination, and the case will later be dismissed due to the failed justice system in Pakistan, judging from the fact that anyone can blame another of blasphemy without the fear of penalty. Before we delve deeper in search of the veiled truth about its current situation, we need to understand how blasphemy law came into existence, especially keeping in mind the post colonial factors that come into play here. Pakistan inherited the laws of the British, like the offences relating to religion were first codified by India's British rulers in 1860 and were expanded in 1927, and Pakistan inherited these same laws when it came into existence after the partition of India in 1947. In the decades since the country gained independence, repeated military coups weakened democratic and civil institutions in Pakistan and solidified its identity as a religious state. For example, in 1974, the Pakistani parliament amended the constitution to state that anyone who does not recognize Muhammad as the final prophet of Islam is not a Muslim. The purpose and effect of this amendment was to declare as non Muslims members of the Ahmadiyya community, a minority sect whose founder claimed to be the Messiah but whose members profess belief in Islam. In 1977, following another military coup, General Muhammad Ziaul Haq became Pakistan's premier and ruled for 10 years until his death. Soon after taking office, he started the process of passing new laws and changing existing ones to conform to a strict interpretation of Islam. The Penal Code was amended to add the death penalty as a punishment for blasphemy and increase the scope of what constitutes blasphemy. Material deemed un-Islamic in nature was expunged from libraries and school textbooks, and new high school biology textbooks taught Islamic creationism in their introductory chapters, something that remains part of the regular curriculum in most Pakistani schools today. Now, with the rise of TLP and, in particular, the weaponization and politicization of Ishq Rasool, there is a greater ideological interest in blasphemy cases, regardless of personal altercations. The personal vested interest in blasphemy cases has shifted to another form of vested interest, one that is much more organized and has to do with political and social power. Although these laws are now treated as sacred, experts say there is no clear definition of blasphemy in Islamic jurisprudence, nor is there agreement on the punishment for it. However, one does not need to look for answers within Islam or arguments within religion to support blasphemy and punishment for blasphemy, because it is well known that Islam is the religion of peace and not the religion of violence. Out of these 6236 Quranic verses, nowhere has it been said to stifle blasphemy by force. On the other hand, Quranic verses addressed the tensions between the earliest Muslims and other communities nearby. Quran says, "You are sure to hear much that is hurtful from those who were given the scripture before you and from those who associate others with God." One such verse tells Muslims only to add, "If you are steadfast and mindful of God, that is the best course." Another Quranic verse holds up as model Muslims, those who walk humbly on the earth and who, when the foolish address them, reply, "Peace." Yet another verse addresses the issue of mockery, telling Muslims that when they hear people who ridicule God's revelations, they should not sit with them. How can the religion that taught Muhammad, peace be upon him, to spare even those that persecuted him and planned his execution, teach you to murder those whose beliefs and values do not align with yours? How can the religion that tells you not to harm Even an animal that lives tell you to murder someone and then stand over his dead body while recording it with your cell phone for the entire world to see as the rest of the crowd stands by watching, yet not a soul utters a word against such great injustice. When one contemplates on the many atrocities man commits to another that threatens his beliefs, he cannot help but wonder which religion must these people follow that murder another for having a different opinion. Moving on, blasphemy laws have always been problematic as they rely on the notion of causing offense, which is very subjective and vague. Blasphemy laws are based on the notion of statements outraging religious feelings and representations insulting the religion or religious beliefs. Both outrage and insult are inexact concepts. They are inexact concepts which create legal uncertainty and encourage an unhelpful degree of subjectivity. Moreover, these laws are not being used to prosecute genuine claims of blasphemy, but are instead used to persecute religious minorities for daring to live in accordance with their own religious beliefs. The increasing trend of the misuse of the blasphemy law intensifies communal hatred, religious intolerance, and persecution against religious minorities in Pakistan. The law is often used as a tool to settle personal scores, false witnesses are brought, and the burden of proof lies with the accused. These incidents have fostered a climate of religiously motivated violence and persecution that is mounting day by day. On top of that, those that are lucky enough not to be killed after allegedly blaspheming cannot find themselves an advocate, as most do not choose to work on such sensitive cases, which adds weight to the argument that blasphemy law is indeed flawed to its core. Furthermore, there have been many attempts to amend the blasphemy law in the past, but sadly most of them have failed. In 2010, a member of the ruling Pakistan People's Party, Shari Rahman, introduced a private bill to amend the blasphemy law which sought to change procedures of religious offences. The bill was passed on to a parliamentary committee for vetting and was withdrawn in February 2011 under pressure from religious forces as well as some opposition political groups. All attempts to amend the blasphemy law unfortunately fail because no government wants to bear inevitable backlash from the public upon trying to amend the blasphemy law, as a majority of the population consists of those that defend it and promote penalties for desecrating religious personages or beliefs. Therefore, Pakistan's harsh blasphemy laws, which are initially a holdover from British colonial rule, have been strengthened in independent Pakistan due to pressure from the religious right wing. And it is easy to see how the interweaving of religious identity with the narrative of Pakistan's independence laid the groundwork for the human rights problems that Pakistan faces today. The blasphemy laws have become so enmeshed with the national and religious identity of the masses that questioning the legitimacy of a blasphemy allegation can itself be considered blasphemous. The free speech guaranteed in the Pakistani constitution does not at all protect speech that is considered blasphemous. The right to free speech is crowded out by protections for Islamic sensibilities, and it is virtually unheard of for the constitutional right to free speech to be raised as a defense in blasphemy cases. Instead, defense attorneys tend to focus on contesting the validity of the blasphemy accusations or arguing that the act did not actually amount to blasphemy. Moreover, Pakistan's blasphemy laws, by virtue of elevating Islam above all other religions, make the practitioners of other religions vulnerable to accusations of blasphemy in Pakistan. Sadly, Pakistan is now on the trajectory to becoming either a rogue regime or a failed state. And how it will deal with these challenges while navigating its identity as a Muslim majority country remains yet to be seen. And its future is, however, not inescapable. If Pakistan is to succeed, then it needs not only to look for inspiration in its past, a time when Pakistani authorities both respected religious freedom, both at home and abroad, but also needs to understand that leadership and respect came not from sponsoring terrorism or apologizing for genocide, but rather that every minority, be it religious or racial, has a right to exist.